What's going on, my sports card hobby friends? It's another day, it's another sports card video. Today, we're gonna just get right into the thick of it. I'm gonna talk about the most expensive sports card that I have ever purchased. I now have it in hand. I've been talking about this card here over the last few weeks. We're going to dive into kind of the whys. And first off, let me get into kind of why making the video. And it's simply because my channel for 4 years has really been talking about my journey in the sports card hobby. And there's news reporting and there's, hobby topics that we're talking about debating, but also just sharing what I'm actually doing. And I kind of mix all of that stuff in as well. And lately I've talked about, hey, I want to get into a few kind of higher end pieces that are just kind of more of those long-term holds, kind of foundational pieces to my overall sports card collection. Now, when I talk about this card, or really any card for that matter, I'm just explaining the journey. It's not a, oh, you should go buy this or buy that. Not at all. Not at all. The hobby and the collectible space is so vast and large. It really boils down to personal preference for anyone. And there's so many different kind of, if we're getting into higher end stuff where it's investable in quotation marks, where it's like, okay, I'm putting some serious money into this. I believe in kind of long-term growth for this particular item. You could make a case for quite a few items across a lot of different types of collectibles. So this is not me telling you what to buy at all. It never is, but it's just more explaining kind of what went into the thought behind buying this particular card. And the card in question, it is the 84 star Michael Jordan rookie card. And I know going back a couple weeks, I made a 86 Fleer versus 84 star video, got some people riled up as far as the real rookie card and that sort of thing. This video isn't going to be along those lines. Just because I believe the 84 star card is the true rookie card, everyone's allowed to have their own opinion. Everyone's allowed to debate cardboard. That's what we do. That's a fun part of the hobby. It was never meant to take away from the 86 Fleer card. I want the 86 Fleer card. It's just the 86 Fleer card to me is widely available. I can really get one of those whenever I want. But again, going back to why I chose that 84 star Jordan card is, we talked about this just a couple of days ago. And actually, Jason Cards and Comics' YouTube channel just talked about it today. $10,000 or in the neighborhood of $10,000, it doesn't really go very far in the sports card world or the non-sports card world, the collectibles world anymore. 5-10 years ago, it did. There was significant cards that you could get in that price range, huge cards. But what we've seen, of course, is just prices all over the place have gone absolutely bonkers. And so for me, looking at, okay, I want to have foundational pieces. I want to feel like I got value. And that is really tough in this space. It is tough to look at sports cards. Even if you go to, $10,000 vintage cards, there are still, of course, collections being found. There's still cards being graded. And so it's difficult to find a licensed set, like 1984 star, NBA licensed, right on the back. You actually have a limited print run. The print run for this was between 3 to 6, 7, up to 7,000, or what some of the estimates were. For an 80s card, that's extremely low. Think about all the 80s sets, whether it be Fleer or Topps, kind of the major releases. They were in the millions, or at the very least, the hundreds of thousands, at the very least. And so to find a set that has a first-year Jordan card in it, fully licensed, between 3,000 and 7,000, I somewhat kind of FOMO'd into this card here recently. I did buy, going back to the Atlantic City National, and I still have it. I've got the Charles Barkley Star rookie card as well. I've got it in a BGS 8.5. Because I do believe in star cards as a whole. When you really dig into the history, when you really kind of get into the nitty gritty and dive in and learn about the star sets, yes, you had a lot of shenanigans later on. The founder of Star went through and did some crazy stuff. There's some great stories. Websites really to visit on this, to study up on, that I think would be very helpful for a lot of people that want to learn more. And if you don't want to learn about it, it's okay. StarBasketballCards.com and BasketballGold.com. These are two websites, longtime websites that have information on these particular cards that's very useful, that can help kind of debunk what a lot of people think is true, and it's just not true. We had a couple years ago, Beckett Magazine came out with some clarifications on the star sets as well. So there's been a lot of new information that's come out over the last 2 to 3 years that's been very helpful for this particular set. I want to touch on FOMO for a second because I think there's different types of FOMO. There's FOMO for new prospect type stuff. Like right now, I think you're seeing a lot of FOMO for Wembanyama. You're seeing a new prospect, a guy that has all the talent and could be that guy. Look at the tens of thousands, the hundreds of thousands, the really in total aggregate millions of dollars being spent on Wemby cards. The guy just completed his rookie season. He looks to be the part. He looks amazing. It's not taken away from Wemby at all. He might be the guy that wins 10 titles. He might be the all-time leading scorer. He might be all of those things, but he's not. He's not yet. He hasn't even had a winning season yet, let alone any individual accolades, let alone any sort of anything that would warrant these types of prices. But there's a lot of FOMO into these cards. They're selling for huge numbers. Now take that FOMO for kind of the new hot prospect, whether it be the Zion Williamson when he was coming out or any of these guys that are coming out. But then there's also FOMO that I kind of have for this set. It's actually pretty rare, and it's actually of a very important player. In this case, a GOAT, Michael Jordan. So I got into this card in part, I FOMO'd into it because I'm worried, I'm genuinely concerned that at this price point, and again, we're talking in the $10,000 range here, that card will not be available. That star Michael Jordan card, maybe it does stay at that price point for the next 5 years, 10 years, forever. Maybe it does. But if I'm comparing Wemby, Prism, green, neon green, I don't know, whatever, for 10 grand, or I'm comparing this card that is very, very limited. There's not many parallels of it, like the Wembanyama, you've got all the different prisms. Now you're going to have Topps Chrome autos. Who doesn't think that some of these Topps Chrome autos won't be $10,000 plus for Wembanyama? I'm certain of it. Way more. And so to me, when I look at some of this stuff, I'm looking at the legends. It's not easy to find a limited set like this going back to the 80s, going back in time, for arguably the greatest athlete of all time, Michael Jordan. Some might argue that. Of course, you could throw other names in, but he's up high on the list. He has the Jordan brand that will live on forever globally. But for most of his cards that I've looked at, I'm out. I can't get into the 90s inserts for Michael Jordan. It's too late. Those things have already gone crazy. Rocket ship. And so for me, if these prices stay where they are, or who knows, maybe they come down, there's some sort of a card drought and everybody is selling off and wants to move out, I want to try to get as many of these as I can. I don't think I'm going to be able to get another one, but if for some reason they do go down, well, me and there's others that will be looking to stack these, because I do believe in the importance of the set, and I think historically it's going to matter. I talk about it ad nauseum, but the most difficult part of the collectible space is navigating the supply side of collectibles, especially pop culture collectibles, newer cards. And really, when I say newer, I'm really talking about, you could argue 70s and 80s forward for sports cards is where you really had some high print runs. 50s and 60s you did as well, but at least, not as much of it survived in good condition and that sort of stuff. But it gets really tough when a lot of stuff has been mass produced. A lot of the supply is really unknown, what survived. And then, of course, you've got graded supply, which is a moving target. And it's growing. Graded supply continues to rise. We just talked about it last night. We gave the gem rate, the grading numbers, and it was massive. It's 1.5 million cards that were graded by the big four, the top four grading companies in the space. That's not even including other grading companies. That is a truckload of cards that are being graded. And so the pop reports, the graded supply is something that's going to continue to grow. And when I look across a lot of different collectibles, not even just sports cards, but graded comic books, graded video games, there's a big question mark around that. What's remaining that's still sitting out there and what has already been graded? It's tough. It's a tough one to navigate. But like I said, I want to have a few foundational pieces. There's another one of these cards that I've talked about on my channel before that's on the radar that, again, I'll be talking about in the next couple of weeks. But really being picky and researching like crazy and figuring out the combination of what you love. It's always, because remember, when people say like, hey, what should I buy? Well, what do you like? What do you love? Yeah, but that's easier said than done. Sometimes it takes time to really get into what you actually love, and it's a lot of buying and selling and trading. And then as a singles buyer, and just an individual collectibles buyer, you find those things that you really do love, but it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen when you first get into the hobby. It takes time to figure all that stuff out, and I think for me, I have figured it out. So we will see what happens, my friends. Let me know your thoughts on this subject in the comments section below. Stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later.